Well, good evening, everybody. It's Blair Nightingale here with Stock Talk Thursday. For those of you who've never joined us for a Stock Talk Thursday, I'm just going to give you a quick look at what you need to know as this week of trading closes out. Of course, we have one more trading day for the week, Monday through Friday. This week, we had a holiday Monday, so Tuesday through Friday. Normally, Monday through Friday is when we can trade stocks in the market. And I want to give you a one-stop shop at the end of the week, give you an idea of what's performing well out there right now, what is not, and what's the main news item. And here at Tradeway, we're concerned about the news item because, number one, we want to help you sift through the noise, right? We don't want you to spend a bunch of time going out there and looking at a bunch of things that aren't really going to matter for your trading, number one. And number two, we understand that it's usually one major thing that's driving or hindering the market as a whole. Now, there are different news items maybe for an individual sector of stocks, and those are some things that we can get into when we're looking at specific trades, but mostly we go by the old saying that rising tides tends to raise all boats. So the news can drive the market. I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. So I want to give you that main news item, cut out some of the noise for you, and let you know what's performing well, what's not. We're going to return to something we even looked at last week. I think it's very important that as we go through this, we're not just jumping from one thing to something completely different because one thing I've noticed in trading is that it doesn't really work that way. Things don't necessarily just change day to day, right? We have day-to-day training programs here at Tradeway. A stock that might have been doing great yesterday could still be doing great today, could still be doing great next month. And if that's the case, I definitely want to pay attention to that because I would much rather find a hot stock that doesn't do anything outside of what's expected, and I could trade that stock over and over and over again potentially, right? So we don't want to change it just to change it. So we're going to look at something we looked at last week, as well as some other new stuff. If you're joining us today live, you can always drop your name in the comments. Reach out to me. Let me know who you are, where you're from, and any questions that you might have. You have this time to be on here with us. We have this time to be on here with you so we can interact a little bit. If there's any way I can help you in your trading, you can go ahead and ask me questions, right? I'd love to have your questions. So go ahead, drop that in there. If it's just a friendly hello, happy to see that as well. Okay, that's how we do it here at Tradeway. Now, I mentioned we're going to look at what's doing well, what's not doing well, and the news item. So let me go ahead and head on over to our stock talk list for the day. You know, I showed you guys some earnings stocks, right? Earnings. We did this about 2 weeks ago. We looked at some stocks that really got hurt on earnings, and we talked about earnings. What is earnings? What's the risk and the danger of earnings for traders? How can we begin to manage that a little bit? That is a previous episode. You can always go back and watch cataloged episodes on YouTube. If you missed anything, go ahead, like on Facebook, ring the bell and subscribe on YouTube, and you'll always get an alert that lets you know when we have new content. And we are doing new content almost every day here at Tradeway on YouTube and Facebook. So you'll want to hit that. We talked about earnings, but the earnings examples were in the negative, right? They moved down, significantly down, okay? If we had been in a trade on any of those stocks, we would have got significant losses out of that, right? Because it actually gapped overnight, meaning the price opened in the morning at a different price that it closed the day before. They do not have to open at the same price. Stocks don't have to open at the same price, except that tends to happen with earnings. So we talked about earnings. What I want to show you today, well, look at this guy. Now, last week we looked at retail getting hurt quite a bit, okay? But here's just a good example. Right? If I zoom this chart way out, okay, it's kind of squished. But we can see, you know, Lululemon has not been in this area before, right? It's never been this high before. And it's in this uptrend here. Then it starts going sideways, right? Would have looked like this. Just like that. Right? Wondering if maybe it's going to bounce up in this area here. It continues down, but what is that day? Earnings. Earnings, and bam, it explodes. It explodes, right? This stock does extremely well. They have what we call a blowout earnings report. They made significantly more money year over year than Wall Street expected them to make. And that's one of the things that causes these earnings reports to move. Now, yes, you can see that they sold the stock off. As we can see a big red candlestick there, but up almost 12%, right? 12% in after hours trading, almost. Right now, stuck about 10.5. But we hit almost 12%. So that's a huge move. What's tempting about that? Well, what's tempting about that is that maybe I should stay in over earnings. Maybe I should do that, because if I do that as a trader, not an investor here, we're not talking about long-term investing, we're talking about trading, then perhaps I could stand to win off of that. But as I always say, trading is never guessing, gambling, or going for it. I'm just going to go for it, right? I've found that is just not going to work. It is just not going to work for traders that want to be consistent, right? We're not just trying to make money in a single trade. We're trying to be consistent over time. That is what we need for this to actually change our lives. And if we're guessing or we're gambling or we're going for it, then that does not happen, right? And earnings can go either way. This one, obviously, bam, exploded up and performed very well. That can be attractive, but it's not a way to establish consistency over time. The stock looking very hot right now. So potentially watching Lululemon, right? Very positive outlook, looking strong, posting some great numbers, looking for this to pull back into a pattern, right? Pulling now into a pattern, and then we can look for a continuation of that strength and see if there's something that comes of a good pattern that we can take advantage of. Okay, now on to the flip side, right? On to the flip side of what we talked about last week. Now, we talked about something being hot last week that I want to show you this week and teach you a couple of things out of what I'm going to show you in that. In other words, stocks, as I mentioned, if we look at them and they're doing well, we don't want to just move on to something else just to move on to something else. What if they keep performing, right? But here's the question. Well, how do I know when they're not performing anymore, right? And we're going to look at something that was hot, but it's changing, right? It's changing. It's not as hot anymore. And I can tell you that the skill set that I've been taught here at Tradeway, which, by the way, to remind everybody, I started out right where you are as a brand new student, a brand new trader in just 2016. Okay. So this is a skill set that we can learn, right? You don't have to disqualify yourself if you are today. And if you're just a trader who says, you know what, I just want to get better, right? You're a trader that says, I just want to get better. We can help you do that as well. Okay. So there's really a process that we go through here. But what we looked at last week, now we can say, well, what's happening? And this is my point. The skill set I learned, I can look at a chart and instantly it's just the skill set, right? It's practice over time. I know how to look at something and go, oh, that's not hot anymore, right? And it's a little bit more detailed than just, well, it's going down today, right? You know, we can all look at the stock chart and say, well, it's moving up. The candlestick's green today, right? The candlestick's red today. It's moving down. It's a little bit deeper than that. I'm going to show you that right now. So what did we look at last week? Well, we looked at healthcare, right? We looked at healthcare. And I'm going to delete this line for now. And this stock, this is an ETF, we call it, right? It's showing us the industry, right? The healthcare industry. So here we are, just zoom in a little bit. We have today, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. Remember, Monday, we did not have an open market. So this is Friday, and there's Thursday. That's where we were together last time. So what did this thing do? It hit the 20-day, the white line there, and started moving up, right? Went back up to where? Exactly where it had gone this time and this time. Now, when I'm looking at an uptrend, here's one thing I want to see. I want to see it make new highs. New highs, man. I want to see it keep breaking into new highs. Because why? Because that shows me strength. Yes, of course, if I'm in the stock, I just want it to go up. But more specifically, I'm looking for the health of that pattern. It's like you get a checkup and something isn't right. When I look at an uptrend, I'm giving it a checkup. And if I don't see a new high, something isn't right, right? Uptrends make new highs. Uptrends make peaks and valleys, I like to call them. Peaks and valleys, like a mountaintop, like a valley low. That's what uptrends do. And you can see that on here. There's an up, there's down, up, down, right? Slightly higher, barely higher, down. Comes up, can't do it. Can't do it. Can't make the new high. And then what happens? Well, you saw it, but I deleted it. Let's go ahead and slap this guy back in here. It has a support line. Now, we teach you how to draw these lines in our class, but it has a support line, okay? And today, it broke through that support line. It broke through the floor. It has not done this for a while, okay? It has not done this for a while. It poked below it here, but it didn't close below it. It just poked below it. And now it's actually closed below that line. So even though we looked at this last week, it's on the hot list. And it absolutely was, right? And little secret, if you had actually been trading this and you understood the Tradeway system, just because you were in it and it went down right now doesn't mean you would have to lose money. You say, well, how can I not lose money if the stock goes down? Well, that's what we want to show you, right? There is certainly a potential where you could have managed this in a way that you would not have to lose money just because the stock is moving down at this point, right? Obviously, the market's closed at this moment, but before the end of the day, right, it broke support. It broke support. So we know what to do if and when that happens. I always say, you can't know what the market's going to do, so we've got to know what we are going to do. Can't control the market, can only control me. When a trader learns that, it's a massive breakthrough, right? It's a very important thing to know that I can't control the market, but I can control me. But I got to know what to do. Okay. So that's breaking through support. Now, that is something that helps me see the stock is not by any means, in this case, getting crushed, right? That's how I would say it. The stock's not getting crushed, but it's definitely shifting momentum. It's definitely shifting. And for me, even though it's not getting crushed, right? This hasn't been falling. It's actually more important to understand the skill sets of seeing when a stock is shifting from hot to not, because I'm going to be more drawn to those kinds of trades. That's where I need more discernment, so I know where to risk my money and where not to risk my money. I want to put my money in the best spots, right? Anyone can look at a chart that's from the top left-hand corner to the bottom right-hand corner and say, well, that's probably not a good idea. But what about the times when momentum is shifting? We need some skills to know how to do that. I see that right here on XLV. Strong industry, but some of its leaders really pulling back today in the market. Boom, this one can't make a new high and breaks support. So that's why XLV is on the list for me today. SPX. What do I want to show you about this? I like to come back to this one every now and then. Anyway, this is the S&P 500. And you know, the market, I'll say this. Typically, we might define the market as not being hot because it's indecisive, okay? Well, yesterday, you'll notice this candlestick. I'm going to get rid of this line here. This candlestick for yesterday actually went down in the morning and then spent the rest of the day going up. Whoa, okay, that's kind of a whipsaw, we like to call it. That's back and forth. Well, what happened today? Well, it did the opposite. It spent the morning going up and then the rest of the day going down. So which way does it want to go? Being able to know what to do when the market's indecisive is important, okay? It's important, and when we see that, we might just go, market's not very hot. Market's not very hot, okay? That's not ideal. And while it's true that that's not ideal for trading directionally, buying stocks, right? We need the stock to move in a direction, right, to be profitable. So that is what we call directional trading. You say, well, is there any other kind of trading? And the truth is that there is. There is trading where we actually don't need the stock to move in a direction to make money. That is part of what we teach in our program and why we teach options in our program. Now, I know some of you don't know what options are yet. All you need to know right now is that options can give you the potential to make money if the stock goes up, if the stock goes down. You say down? Yes, even down or sideways, right? Or sideways. So that is an exciting part of what you can learn with this, okay? If the market falls, that can be an opportunity. If the market goes sideways, that can be an opportunity. You just have to know how to do some stuff, right? That's what you need to know. You need to know how to do some stuff. We can teach you how to do that stuff. Now, that said, the market here is falling today. It's falling. That's a red candlestick. It hit here. It's just been moving down, right? A little bit of back and forth yesterday and today, like I said, but really moving down. Now, here's what I want to show you. Overall, how much is the stock market, the S&P 500, up for the year? There's the beginning of the year on the bottom left-hand side of the chart. Let me shrink this a little bit so you can see it all. There we go. It's still quite a bit, right? The S&P is actually returning over 20%, right around 20% right now. From the beginning of the year, 20%, okay? So it's actually really hot. Stocks pulling back, meaning they drop, peaks and valleys, right? A peak doesn't turn into a valley unless it pulls back, drops down. That's what we call it, a pullback. Okay. If it doesn't do that, there's no valleys. So it is normal for stocks to move up and move down. They buy and that raises it up. They sell and that pulls it back down. Now, most of us know that there's buying and selling, right? We know at least that much. But what we don't always connect to is that stocks move down, and that's not necessarily abnormal. In fact, even big moves down usually causes a lot of fear for people, right? It's in the news and they don't help. Trust me, they don't help. They pour gas on the fire, but it actually isn't something we have to be afraid of. Why? Number one, we can understand stocks move down. It's not abnormal. Happens all the time. Always has in the stock market and likely always will. I can't imagine a stock market where nothing ever goes down, okay? Number one. Number two, you can learn what to do when it is going down. How's that for a hot idea, right? Not knowing what to do when it's going down, definitely not a hot idea. Having no idea what to do, having no idea what's happening in the market, having no idea how to talk to your financial advisor, having no idea how to fly your own financial plane, that is a not hot idea in my book. A hot idea, understanding what to do, or at least what to ask. What to ask, right? Because I got the phone calls during March of 2020 when people were calling Tradeway and saying, I have a financial advisor and he just left my money in the market all the way to the bottom. All the way. 30, 40+% in some cases lost from your retirement account. Okay? No matter where you're at in your journey, that is not okay. You do not want that, right? Especially if you're close to retirement because you have less time to recover. So that's not a hot idea either. So the market as a whole, very hot, very hot, but not understanding how to manage this, not so hot, not so hot. We want to capitalize on great opportunities, which this year has been. When the market falls, we want to know it's not so abnormal, but we also want to know what to do. What do we do if that's happening? How do traders manage that? How do people who have this skill set manage that? That, of course, is what we want to teach you as well, okay? That's a huge thing. Now you'll notice, I'll say this last thing, where are we at here, right? Are we down at support? Well, no, we're not, right? We're not at this 50-day moving average. We're not at support. We're currently right at the white line, which is our 20-day moving average. Sometimes we bounce at the 20-day. Sometimes we break it. Perhaps tomorrow will be the deciding factor for us on that. Are we going to get a bigger move down or not? Either way, we're going to be in touch with our students, helping walk them through what the options are. What can we do depending on what the market does? Because we never know. We never know what the market's going to do. We just take the information that it's giving us. We apply our skill set to that, right? We don't have to guess. We don't have to gamble. We don't have to go for it. That's how this works. Definitely some downside potential there. In the short term, long term, 20%. Market is, what I like to say, ripping higher. That is what it has been doing. Now, that said as well, what's the news? Remember I said I want to help you sift through this, and I say this every week. I want to help you sift through this. There's a lot of stuff out there. Some of you guys maybe like reading financial news. Some of you don't. Maybe most of you don't. I don't even like reading financial news. Now, I like to dive into certain topics because I get to be in the markets all the time. But for the most part, I'm just looking for the main thing. I'm just looking for the main thing. Cut out all the noise. That's what I want to do for you today. Just kind of give you an idea. If you were out there, if you were listening to the news, if you're walking through the airport or you see an article or whatever, wherever you're exposed to news, you're at the gym. They usually play it up there on the screens, don't they? Wherever you might hear, see it, radio, you can sift through it too. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Right now, we're really looking for one main item. We're always looking for one main item. I say that all the time as well, okay? The big thing right now is really Delta, the Delta variant, right? What is that really going to do to jobs? What is that going to do? Because we got some jobs numbers this week, and a lot less people are going back to work than Wall Street thought, right? Wall Street thought the jobs numbers were going to be up higher than they were, okay? And a lot of people are not going back to work. There's a lot of empty positions, right? I can't quote the number for you right now. I want to off the top of my head, but I don't want to get it wrong. There is a lot of job openings, and they're not being filled, okay? So there is some fear. There's some doubt. Well, okay, wait. People aren't moving into the labor market. What's that going to mean, right? Is this going to raise costs for businesses? Is it going to hamper profits and growth? Remember that Wall Street wants to see profits and growth, right? They want to see people spending money. They want to see companies making money so that the companies grow. And if the companies are expected to grow, then they're happy to invest in that stock. What does that do? Makes the stock go up, right? Lifts the market. When there's massive optimism for the economy, you can see that in the stock market. We call it a leading indicator. It's a leading economic indicator, which simply means that they're looking at all the economic data, and when they're happy and they're confident about the future, they buy stocks. So it helps us see, what does Wall Street think about the future of the economy? Right now, that's dampened a little bit. And it's dampened because the COVID Delta variant is still a central news item. It comes and goes a little bit in terms of the Wall Street news, but it's still a big thing. September's a question mark already. It historically tends to be more of a negative month. September, we've got Fed news we've talked about on here multiple times. All of that kind of stuff kind of bunched together with COVID. How are we going to get over this hurdle here and see things really open up and see that economic recovery? Now, I don't want to oversimplify because I think there's some other things going on politically that are really not helping us economically. But all in all, COVID is still at the center of the conversation. You know what Wall Street doesn't like, you guys? They don't like uncertainty. Because why? Because they're risking their money. They're risking their money. So they want a sense of certainty. When they see enough positive factors and other traders, right, big money buying, that's enough for them. Okay. But once there's enough uncertainty in the air and some other big traders start to pull some money out, what happens? The market starts to drop. Then the enthusiasm kind of gets sucked out of the room and we just don't see the same kind of buying. Okay. Now, what we've noticed is that the market, they don't let it drop very far. And if they do, they don't let it drop for very far for very long. And that's why I say, sure, the S&P might be pulling back right now, but look at that, 20%. That's a big increase. So we're not expecting anything heavily bearish in the short term here, although maybe mildly bearish. We could see some moves down here in the next week, but nothing crazy just yet, because every time the market has fallen, the buyers have stepped right back in. So we just keep watching and seeing, all right, how many times are they going to be willing to do that? And do you and I know what to do when they don't buy the dip, right? I'm not saying the stock market's going to go to zero, but when they don't come in and buy it at a higher level, right? The 5, the 10-day moving average, that's a very, very high level. And every time it hits those, it seems like the buyers just want to jump back in. So we're watching and seeing, all right, where are we going to go tomorrow? Can we break that 20-day moving average? So the news is really around that COVID September mix. Where are we going to get some positivity, right? Where are we going to get some positivity? The president making a pretty big announcement tonight regarding COVID vaccines. There's an interesting thing we could speculate about tonight. Will Wall Street care, right? A lot of people are going to have a lot of passionate opinions about that. But what will Wall Street think? Well, they'll think something if they think it's going to hurt or help the economy, right? If they don't see the connection, they're not going to care at all, right? So we're really just looking at what's the future of this Delta variant. And of course, I've said that a few times, right? To drive home the point, okay? That said, you guys, if you've never taken any of our classes, I say this every time, head on over, tradeway.com. Right there on tradeway.com, you can sign up for our Step 1 Start Your Journey course, okay? That is our course for you to learn the Tradeway system. We're going to teach you patterns. How do you see patterns, right? How do you draw those lines that I put on there? How do you draw support and resistance? Okay, that's going to be important for the foundation of learning how to do this. I said I started in 2016. This is a skill set that we methodically teach you piece by piece, step by step. And you know what? This sounds so cliche, I know, but if I can learn it, anybody can learn it. I had no financial background. I had no business background. I was in the dentist last week, and I'm going to finish with this story, you guys. I was in the dentist last week, and the dentist asked me, the dental assistant asked me, well, what do you do? So I began to tell her about trading and Tradeway and different things that we do. And she said, oh, wow, you must love numbers, right? She just made this assumption immediately. Oh, you must love math. Honestly, math was one of my worst subjects ever because I didn't like it. I'd never liked math. I've never liked math, and I have not needed that. And that's just an interesting illustration to say to some of you, you may be disqualifying yourself because you think you need to know certain things about economics and data and math and spreadsheets and all this kind of stuff. That's not how we teach trading. That's not how we teach trading. We're going to show you how to look at this more of an art and a science than a science itself, right? You don't need an economics degree to learn how to do this, okay? And we are here to help you every step of the way. Now, that's for people if you've never done anything, okay? You've never done anything with us before. If you'd like to do something a little different, not the 2-day event that we have, I'm going to pop a link in the comments here. This is actually our Trade in 30 Days challenge, right? You say, I would love to set aside a Friday and Saturday. You can go over to tradeway.com and see the dates. and join you to learn this system, right? But I'm not going to be able to do that. Is there another option for me? There is. You can do our 30-day challenge. We're going to meet you on your computer just like this. Little bite-sized chunks every day for 30 days. You get connection with coaches, you get quizzes, you get courses. It's all in the 30-day challenge. You can sign up for that right there, and that's going to give you the foundation of the system. If you're interested in some of the other things I said about options, and wait, I could potentially make some money when the market goes down, that sounds amazing. This is the starting point for that, right? We need you to do this first, and then we can move into that other stuff later. So if you're interested in that, go ahead, click on that link, sign up for the 30-day challenge. Very inexpensive options. We are giving you way more value, right? You're going to make an investment. We want to get a return. We want to give you rather a return on that investment. And you will find that in the 30-day challenge and in our 2-day Start Your Journey course, tradeway.com. That's Stock Talk Thursday, everybody. Thanks so much for being on with me today. What's hot? What's not? What's some things I can learn? What's going on in the market? Remember, it's not such a hot idea to not know what's going on or what to do about it. Pretty hot idea. Get to know, as our friend Myron Golden says, as much as you can, as fast as you can about money. We don't worship it, but we use it and we learn how to use it well because it matters. It may not matter the most, and we don't carry an idea or a belief around here at Tradeway that it is the most important thing in life. We do not. And we don't function that way, but we do not shy away from it because we know it's important for people and the expansion of the kingdom on the earth. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next time. Good night.